You know, Jeffrey Marsh is a name that has probably come up in the Daily Cancellation before. He's a 45-year-old creep who's gained prominence in the groomer community through TikTok videos promoting transgenderism to kids. Now, according to the bio on his website, his videos have received over 1 billion views in total. He goes on to pad his stats in his bio by claiming to be, quote, the first non-binary public figure to appear on national television. Of course, non-binary simply means that he's a dude who wears eyeshadow and women's clothing. And if you believe that Jeffrey Marsh is the first guy to do that on TV, I would like to introduce you to something called the 1980s, where it was quite common. There's nothing bold or pioneering about cross-dressing. In fact, at this point, it's much more unique for a man to appear on television wearing men's clothing. If you really want to be a trendsetter, simply dare to be normal in this society. One other possible note of interest from Marsh's bio, it says, quote, Jeffrey has studied and taught Zen for over 20 years. Their rigorous training while living as a monk at a Buddhist monastery in California, as chronicled in his book, How to Be You, resulted in Jeffrey receiving the status of precepted facilitator in the Soto Zen tradition of Buddhism. The rank of precepted facilitator is an elite category and marks a Zen practitioner trained to assist anyone towards spiritual growth. So in keeping with his distinctive and individualistic approach to life, Jeffrey Marsh calls himself a Buddhist, just like literally every other liberal white guy in California. And by the way, at the risk of butchering Buddhist teachings, I don't pretend to be an expert on the subject because I don't pretend to be Buddhist, unlike Jeffrey Marsh. But I'm pretty sure that one of the fundamental ideas in Buddhism is that you're supposed to detach yourself from desire. But the LGBT cult totally defines itself by its desires. It teaches that life is best lived in pursuit of what you desire, no matter what your desires might be. This represents, if anything, a kind of anti-Buddhist philosophy, it seems to me. It's like that's the opposite of what Buddhism is. But I'll leave it to the Buddhists to make that case. Today, my concern is one of the most recent videos posted by this non-binary Buddhist Zen cross-dressing groomer monk. In this video, as he has in so many other videos, Marsh attempts to definitively debunk the anti-trans propaganda disseminated by vile transphobes like yours truly, for example. Here it is.
Hi, kids. There's no such thing as a boy or a girl, and I can prove it. So gather around the family, the parents, everybody, answer my questions. You either say boys or girls. Who's usually taller? Oh, boys? Okay. But you've met some short boys, right? You met some tall girls. So usually boys are taller, but not always. Okay. Who likes the color pink? Girls? Okay. But you've met girls who don't like pink. And you met boys who do like pink. So usually girls like pink, but not always. Everything you can think of that makes a boy or makes a girl is usually, but not always. And some of them are not even usually. Where does that leave you? Free. You get to like what you like. You get to be who you are. Maybe you're even like me, and you're not a boy or a girl.
Wow. Brilliant. I mean, the great thing about this argument is that I can use it to erase literally anything from existence. For example, most penguins are black and white, but some penguins are albino and have all white feathers. Therefore, penguins don't exist. The average length of a novel is 90,000 words, but some novels are well over 200,000 or even 500,000 words. Therefore, books don't exist. Here's an interesting one. The average IQ of a human being is between 85 and 115. The average IQ of a fruit bat is 2.3. Jeffrey Marsh's IQ is also 2.3. Therefore, human beings don't exist. Or fruit bats don't exist, or Jeffrey Marsh is a fruit bat, or perhaps all these things are true. Indeed, we might as well say that fruit bats don't exist, and also Jeffrey Marsh is a fruit bat, considering that Jeffrey Marsh is claiming that boys and girls don't exist, while also claiming that a boy who identifies as a girl should be accepted and affirmed as one. He demands that we affirm someone's self-identity as something that, according to him, doesn't exist. This remains one of the many, many self-contradictions in gender ideology. It holds as sacrosanct an individual's identification with or in a particular sex category, while at the same time insisting that the sex categories are mythological. There are no girls, and also that person over there with a penis is one. You must accept him as something that is nothing, or else you have erased him, even though we're the ones who just erased the entire category that he is claiming membership in. There is no way to make sense of this hopeless tangle of contradictions. You can't understand it because it is not meant to be understood. Marsh justifies his erasure of boys and girls by pointing out that some girls are taller than some boys and some boys like the color pink. This is the level of intellectual rigor that we get from the left on this topic. You probably don't need me to explain why this reasoning is flawed, but I will anyway. We speak about height and color preference in terms of averages, okay? In particular, height anyway. We talk about averages especially. The existence of outliers within a category does not throw the existence of the entire category into question. On the contrary, you need the outliers in order to come up with the average. You cannot have an average without the outliers. That's the whole point of the average. But the fact that we can come up with averages within these categories and then compare the categories against each other is a pretty good indication that the categories exist. If we can say anything at all about a category, okay, if we can make any statements, if we can offer any descriptions of any kind, then that means the category exists. The very statement, "not all boys are tall," automatically validates and confirms the existence of boys as a category because you're talking about them. If they didn't exist, the statement would be meaningless. It doesn't make any sense to speak descriptively about a group of people who, according to you, are fictional. It would be like if you wanted to prove that leprechauns don't exist, and so you said, not all leprechauns have red hair, some are blonde. Okay, so you're saying they do exist then. I mean, you're describing them. So what we've learned here is that even if you can only speak about a category in terms of rough averages, that doesn't mean the category is illegitimate or non-existent. But in the case of boys and girls, men and women, we can actually speak much more definitively. Marsh claims that there's nothing we can say about men or women that would apply to every member of that group. And that's what's known as begging the question, okay? Not to be confused with raising a question, even though the phrases are often used interchangeably. He is begging the question about sex differences by embedding his conclusion into the premise of his argument, begging the question. He proves, quote unquote, that men and women don't exist by pointing out that there are no definitive facts about them. But that argument could only even begin to work if we assume from the outset that it's true that there are no definitive facts about them. But it's not true. I can say about men, for example, that all of them are male. And all males are of the nature to produce sperm and impregnate females. Meanwhile, all women are female, and all females are of the nature to produce ova and bear offspring. Even the females who do not bear offspring are still of the nature to do so. It is natural for them to do so. They are the only ones who can do so. Disease or old age or genetic defect may prevent them from doing so, but that doesn't change their nature. And the same in the reverse is true for males. I can say that all human beings are of the nature to walk on two legs. It's natural for us to walk on two legs. A man who loses a leg in a car accident or who's born deformed still shares this nature. All humans are of the nature to be self-aware and sentient, conscious. This is one of the defining features of human beings. It is what makes us human. And that doesn't change just because some human beings are in a coma. Injury or sickness has deprived some humans of this natural function, but that doesn't mean that it's not a natural function. In fact, the man in a coma only confirms that human beings are conscious because we wouldn't be able to identify and label unconsciousness if we weren't conscious ourselves. The exception proves the rule. This is true of unconsciousness in human beings, just as it's true of infertility in women. In a similar way, if it wasn't natural for human beings to possess basic intelligence and reasoning skills, I would not be able to identify Jeffrey Marsh as being especially stupid. But human beings are supposed to have basic reasoning and intelligence, which is how I know that Jeffrey Marsh's bottomless stupidity is unusual and possibly an indication of some sort of brain disease or trauma, which is something that he should really probably look into, talk to his doctor about. But in the meantime, what I can say is that he is canceled. And that'll do it for us for this portion of the show as we move over to the members block. Hope to see you there. If not, talk to you tomorrow. Godspeed.